On episode 58 of Traveling from New Zealand to Japan, I spent 26 hours in the world's best airport, but in the worst way possible. So I didn't notice at the time, but when I arrived in Singapore, Taylor Swift and all of her cult Swiftie followers were also there for her world tour, which was definitely not controversial. And while I was able to find a cheap hostel for the first 3 nights, I couldn't for the fourth, as everything available was at least $120, which is way too expensive for a crappy bunk bed. So I had a great idea. Why not just stay overnight in the world's best airport for free instead? So I looked online and saw you can get into the transit area of the airport where they have a pool, a butterfly garden, and a movie theater of all things 24 hours before your flight leaves. So I arrived at the airport 26 hours before my flight, ecstatic to explore everything the airport had to offer. I first went to the famous Jewel, which was unlike anything I've ever seen. On top of having an amazing waterfall with a Porsche just casually existing, they also had a Pokemon Center, which I had never been to before, so I got really excited about until I realized they had no Mareeps, which is my favorite Pokemon. So I left sad and sheepless, and it only went downhill from here, because at this point, it was 24 hours before my flight, so I went to the security checkpoint with my digital boarding pass and was immediately turned away. And this is when I realized I screwed up big time. Remember how I said you can get into the transit area 24 hours early? Well, apparently, Google AI didn't give me all the details because it turns out that this only applies to certain airlines that operate a lot out of Singapore. And surprisingly, my airline, Ethiopian Airlines, was not on that list, which was really awkward because I was in my swim trunks fully expecting to be swimming at this point. Now, despite my situation, I did have some hope because all I needed was for Ethiopian Airlines to print off my boarding pass. But unfortunately, they had no flights until 2 a.m., which meant their check-in desk, which could print off my boarding pass, would not be open until 11 p.m., which was 8 hours away. So I went to the one place that could do me no wrong, McDonald's, and sat there for hours and hours. But eventually the time came and I made my way to the check-in desk to ask for my boarding pass, just to get immediately rejected. And I had no choice but to wait 13 more hours until I could check in. So I went back to my comfort spot for even more food before eventually hiding in the corner of the airport to sleep. After my 2-hour power nap, I of course went back to McDonald's and enjoyed some food and some local wildlife before wasting away until I could get my boarding pass 24 hours after I first arrived at the airport. And once I got through security, I just speedran everything. I first went to the Sunflower Garden, which was a glorified smoke pit, then went to the Butterfly Garden and saw all the butterflies. I then made my way to the movie theater, which was not as big as I thought it would be, and then tried to find the swimming pool and sadly couldn't, but it's not like I had time to use it anyways. I decided to end my 26 hours at the world's best airport by having a lobster roll from Luke's because 1, it's my name, and 2, I quite frankly deserved it before boarding my 45-minute flight to Kuala Lumpur. Okay, bye.